One of the most interesting things to me in my research is the type of words people use when they approach building wealth. For example, far more people search Google for variants of how to get rich, compared to how to build wealth, or how to become wealthy. You would think that they'd be similar, but people usually phrase it the first way. I think that's because of the mindset that many people have. Getting rich has short-term intonations, while building wealth sounds like something your grandfather did back in the day over blood, sweat, and tears. Realistically, building durable wealth takes time. You can accelerate that process in multiple ways and build wealth quite fast, but it's always critical to have a long-term outlook. People that make fast money and get rich swiftly often lose it just as fast as they make it. For example, if you start an internet business and generate piles of cash flow, throw it at some sports cars and various gadgets, you could find yourself suddenly screwed if something in the marketplace changes, like your Google traffic, or advertising rates, or whatever the case may be. No matter what you're earning, the key is to put your earned money into reliable investments, like index funds, dividend-paying stocks, cash-producing real estate, and more. And if you're not earning a ton of money, you can still build serious wealth over time, and get rich eventually. This section will outline various fast and slow, modest and aggressive, ways you can build wealth. Roth IRA example. The current limit for a Roth IRA is $6,000 per year for people under 50. You get to put in after-tax money, and from that point on it's never taxed again. If you make over $122,000 as a single filer or $193,000 as a married couple, then you'll be restricted from using this investment vehicle. What rate of returns should you count on for an account like this? John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard and inventor of the index fund, predicts based on current high market valuations that stocks will return about 5% per year over the next decade. McKinsey & Company forecasts 4 to 6% stock returns per year over the next 20 years. It's impossible to say for sure how fast your equity investments will grow, but 130 years of historical price-to-earnings data from Dr. Robert Shiller agree with their estimates. High market valuations like today have resulted in poor forward returns over the next 10 to 20 years at every point in history. So let's say you put away the maximum $6,000 each year, and continue to put away that amount, adjusted for inflation, each year for the next few decades. The following table shows your growth of wealth based on different rates of return over different periods of time. An 1. 401k and Thrift Savings Plan, TSP, example. With these types of retirement accounts, you can invest up to $19,000 per year and potentially also get an employer match, with no restrictions based on income. The 401k is commonly used by private employers while the TSP is the main investment vehicle for federal civilian and military personnel. The money you put in is pre-tax, and is taxed when you withdraw from it. Although nowadays, they also have Roth 401ks and Roth TSPs. The following table shows the growth of wealth in your 401k or TSP at different rates of return, assuming you put in the maximum amount with no matching contributions. If the employer throws in another 5% of your salary, then even better. That's what you get with the TSP, while 401k contribution matching will vary by employer. Entrepreneurship example. Suppose you took $100,000, invested it to start your own business, and then managed to grow the equity of that business by 15% per year. This chart shows the inflation-adjusted value of that business equity over time, and shows how multimillionaires get rich. In reality, you'd also be receiving a salary from that business at some point, which you could be investing. And you might have business partners or early investors that affect your ownership percentage of it. But generally speaking, to achieve very high rates of return over long periods of time, entrepreneurship in some capacity is the most reliable route, even if it is somewhat high risk. 5 tactics to build wealth fast. The hardest part about building wealth is just starting. After that it gets easier, as you build and build on the initial momentum. At first, there's so much information to absorb, and so many different routes you could go in. So, here's general order of what things to tackle first. Some of them you'll likely want to do in parallel, and that's great. But overall, Some things are best saved for later, like investing, while other things need to get done right away, like paying off debt. So here goes. 1. Pay off high-interest debt now. High-interest credit card debt, unsecured loans, and basically anything over 6% per year needs to be paid down right now. Keeping some low-interest debt like a mortgage or student debt can actually be a good thing, because it lets you save money in assets that produce a higher rate of return and start building wealth. But those other high-interest debts need to go, so channel money aggressively into them until they're done. Seriously, if you have high-interest debt, consider it an emergency and work extra hours or do whatever it takes to fix that this year. You'll thank yourself later. This will also help boost your credit score, which saves you a ton of money with interest payments and gives you access to great rewards cards. I have a detailed article called, How to Increase Your Credit Score to 800 and Above, if you want more information on optimizing it. 2. Establish an emergency fund for liquidity. Around the same time as you're paying off debt, you need to have some money on the side. Not necessarily a ton, but some. The statistics are alarming for the percentage of people that couldn't come up with $500 if they had to. There are so many things that can go wrong, like a car breaking down, or a medical issue, or a death in the family, or a variety of other things, and you need to have liquidity to act on those things without turning to a credit card. 3. Mercilessly cut spending on things that don't serve you. This is where I differ from a lot of people. I don't like frugality, and I'm not frugal. Instead, I believe in minimalism. I spend plenty of money on high-quality, ethical, and sustainable food, without caring about the price tag. I travel to other continents and spend time in luxury hotels, and those experiences are some of the best times in my life. But my car? I don't care about it at all other than it being reliable and safe. It's cheap and I'll run it into the ground before buying another one. I have no cable television. My apartment is so sparse that my landlord once asked if I even live in it, and assumed that I'm always on business travel or something. That's how I like it, because it lets me focus. I've found that having a passion for something, and cutting expenses, goes hand in hand. The first naturally leads to the second. Being frugal and pinching pennies can be really boring and unsatisfying as you focus on what you lack. But simplifying the possessions around you, traveling lightly through life, and spending your time and energy on projects that interest you, and that often produce money, can be incredibly satisfying. The main reason I avoid buying things is that I just think of how much time and energy they'll drain from me, and how distracting they'll be. I'm allergic to clutter. Everyone's different, but this works for a lot of people. Spend liberally on what you love, and cut ruthlessly what you don't. 4. Seek out higher income streams. There are 3 main ways to approach this. 1. Focus hard on your career and earn a high income for your expertise. 2. Work a decent job and have a profitable side hustle as well. 3. Go full-on entrepreneur and start a bigger business. If you go the first route, it usually means spending time and money on education and continued training, making the effort to be a top performer at work, and maximizing your return through effective negotiation. This is the route of doctors, lawyers, lead engineers and scientists, upper-level management, and so forth. You can have a side hustle as well, but it's hard because your job takes so much focus. If you go the second route, your job might not be as glamorous and you may not have a really high-level education, but you may have extra time for building more income streams on the side. Whether it's freelancing, tutoring, dog-sitting, or whatever, there are countless ways to make money on the side to accelerate the process of building wealth. The third route is the rarest, where you drop your main job and go hardcore into founding and growing a business. The payoff could be huge here, but it could also go bust and result in wasted time and capital. Pursuing any of these 3 options is a historically reliable way to get rich over time. The only mistake would be avoiding all 3 by working a regular job, not having a side hustle, and not doing any business. Millionaires don't work 40-hour weeks. 5. Invest money as soon as you get it. For each paycheck, or each month if you don't have regular paychecks, the first priority should be putting a lot of that money into investments before it becomes spendable. This is called paying yourself first. 1. If you have a 401k, automatically put at least 5% of each paycheck into it. 2. Max out a Roth IRA each year, if applicable. 2. Set it up for automatic withdrawals from your checking account if possible. 3. Put additional money into your 401k, or start putting cash into taxable accounts. 4. By saving at least 20% or more of your income each year, you'll begin aggressively compounding your wealth. After much of this is automated, and you're putting a ton of money into your accounts each month, you'll be more free to spend what's left on whatever you wish.